So is God simply just a figment of our imagination or an innate desire to have someone or something make some sort of sense out of life? Is our belief in God simply a belief in a magic man in the sky of some sort? It would seem that the atheist community insists that God is merely a figment of our imagination and that to believe in a creator God is tantamount to believing in a magic man in the sky. Consider these couple of paragraphs from the atheist website godisimaginary.com. This site has been mentioned in the New York Times and is heavily referenced by the atheist community on the web. The atheist proposition as expressed in this article in the next couple of paragraphs is as follows, quote, "As you think about this, what you realize is that evolved beings have no souls. Human beings are no different from any other animal, insect, plant, or bacteria in the way we have evolved. In the same way that every other living thing on planet Earth is soulless, humans are without a soul. The whole notion of a soul is a figment of human imagination." The article goes on to say, where did the first cell come from? Many believers will argue that God magically created the first living cell. This, of course, is silly. The scientific principle that describes the origin of life is called abiogenesis. In the same way that there is no supernatural being involved in evolution, there is no supernatural being involved in abiogenesis. Science tells us all of these things with complete clarity. God is imaginary. Well, interestingly, I've written a very timely book that refutes these same atheistic assertions. I use documented and heavily referenced scientific knowledge, sound logic, and contextual biblical interpretation to do so. My book is titled The Magic Man in the Sky, Effectively Defending the Christian Faith. So what about the godisimaginary.com article? This notion that somehow a Christian believer is dedicated to a belief in a mere magic man in the sky is nothing more than a straw man argument fallaciously set up by the atheist. My book systematically exposes and demolishes this straw man argument. Now, if one wants to talk about real magic, consider the evolutionist proposition that all of life, all 20 million species of life, and all of their subsystems and all of their sub-subsystems originated, says the atheist, from an accidental, random, unpurposed, unplanned conglomeration of chemicals conjoining in a mystical, magical pool of mud billions of years ago. This pool of mud and its magical mixture has never been observed or replicated, nor can it be scientifically falsified. In over 150 years of human attempts to replicate this accidental process, we have not even come close to doing so, even with our intelligent input involved. I find it very interesting that the article admits that, quote, "the scientific principle that describes the origin of life is called abiogenesis." The term abiogenesis was a term invented in the late 1800s to spiff up the scientifically obliterated idea of spontaneous generation. We now know through real science that life cannot come from non-life without intelligent input. And what is the bottom line truth of abiogenesis and the origins theory of evolution? That life originally came from non-life, accidentally. So the God is Imaginary article admits that the very premise of evolution, the very principle that describes evolution, is nothing more than mere superstition, proven over 100 years ago to be scientific hogwash. It's as if evolution is really saying Father Time plus a magic mud mama equals life. Now there is real magic. Get your copy of my new book, The Magic Man in the Sky, Effectively Defending the Christian Faith. Considering the days in which we now live, you need this book. Available at Amazon.com and WND Superstore. Get your copy today.